Welcome to the Life and Money podcast with Danielle and Francelle.
I'm Danielle,
And I'm Francelle.
and this is the podcast where we talk about what's keeping you from the life and the money you want and deserve.
Yes. And today we are going to start by introducing Danielle and her story. And I want to ask her some questions about how she came to become a trauma and mindset life coach. Is that okay, Danielle?
Man, that is more than okay.
Okay, because I
Yes.
think as we start this series, it'd be great for people to know our backstories, why we are doing this work, why we're qualified to even be talking about these subjects. So
Yeah.
we want to start. I just want to know like all the things about you. I've known you for a couple years, but I've never known like how you got into this work. Can you tell me more about what led you here?
Yeah. It's interesting. I say I started like my healing journey in 2009. Um, but the act of moving into this work started in 2008. I'm sorry, 2018. So in 2009 is when I like discovered why healing mattered. There was a diagnosis and there was all of this stuff that came up, and it really grabbed me by the throat. I was 27 years old, and I started. This is how I developed love being a core principle of mine and moving from that space. But in 2018, I was married. I had 4 kids, and I looked in the mirror and I did not recognize myself.
Hmm.
Um, I was successful by all accounts. I was goals by so many standards, but I didn't recognize myself, and I was um, fed up with the life that I was living. And then fast forward to 2019, I made some drastic changes, but I became riddled with anxiety, panic attacks, and I sought help. I would tell people, hey, I'm not doing okay. And everybody was like, you're fine. And I was like, but for real, I'm not doing okay. And everybody was like, you're fine. I would go to doctors and say, I'm not doing okay. And they were like, but you're fine. And I
Hmm.
realized that while I wasn't doing okay, it was really, really, really hard to get help.
Hmm.
People didn't believe me. I didn't create a world to where help was even feasible. I created it. I got this mentality. I really needed help, and I went to doctors, and they just wanted to give me medication, which I understood. They wanted me to feel better, but I wanted to understand how I got there.
Hmm.
It became my mission to understand how did I get to this point. And then I started doing the work, and I clawed and climbed out. And I was like, oh, yeah, I never want anybody else to go through what I went through to get to healthy, to a proper state of movement. And I value medicine. I just didn't want to mute my symptoms. So I never understood how I got there.
Yeah.
um, I wanted to fix it. I wanted to gain a deeper understanding so that I had more power. I felt powerless just muting the symptoms. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my symptoms were intense, so I understood why they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do that. But for me, it was really important um, to help other people, because when you're in the midst of pain, it is really hard to get help, and I didn't want it to be that hard for anybody else. So.
Yeah, that's so good. I want to ask you when you said, I think it was back in 2018, you said you didn't recognize yourself. What does that mean?
I looked in the mirror, and by all accounts, I looked fine, but I just didn't know who I was looking at.
Mm,
Like, it felt like complete disassociation. I was like, who I was still inside of me,
mm-hmm,
but somebody had taken over the body. Like,
mm-hmm,
I was like, I could still see me in there somewhere, but
mm-hmm,
I had self abandoned in so many ways and died to so many things of me that when I looked, I was like, I know she's still in there,
mm-hmm,
but somebody else, it felt like someone had taken over my body. It sounds super dramatic, but I felt so far away from the decisions that I was making and the way that I had decided to live my life, the things that I had given up on, what I was willing to tolerate.
Mm.
I was like, the person who I am, she
Mhm.
doesn't do these things.
How do you
You
think you got there? I know you
know,
had like 4 kids like really fast and all that, but it was there more to it than just my entire life changed. I had lots of children and a new relationship and all this kind of stuff, or was it something else?
it was definitely something else. So
Hmm.
trauma robs you of your future.
Hmm.
Unresolved trauma robs you of your future. It's like you develop and move from fear versus love and power. And so many things had happened that I had kind of just given up. And by all accounts, I was successful. So the external, everyone was like, "You're doing a great job. Great job. Everything's wonderful." Like my kids at that time looked pristine. Everything just looked pristine. So I was
Mhm.
getting all this external validation that things were going well. And to live the life that I truly wanted to live, there was going to be a lot of disruption. And
Mm.
that is scary.
Yeah.
Um, and with when you're living a life, not to live in a life where you're surrounded by fear,
Mhm.
you'll self-abandon. So I didn't want more disruption. And to live the life that I truly felt called to live, there was going to be a lot of disruption. A lot of things weren't going to make it with me.
And you knew
Um,
that even at that in that moment, you already knew like some things
Absolutely.
are gonna, yeah.
And uh, like living in a life where you just want calm or things just to be easy for a change. And
Mhm.
you had found a way of easy. It self betrayed me, right? And it wasn't easy, but you had found some kind of predictable, dependable life. I was
Yeah.
miserable, but
Yeah.
no one, I was hiding it.
Mhm.
And even for myself, sometimes I was pretending like I was fine with what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew that to live the real life I want to live,
Mhm.
I'm going to disrupt.
Yeah.
And that is super duper duper scary. So,
Yeah. I feel like sometimes because of, the way we grew up and there was like this, checkbox of happiness, kind of this is the prescription for happiness. When we find ourselves in a situation where we don't feel happy, but we've checked all the boxes, it's really hard to break free from that and say, like, I'm about to throw away all the things on this checklist because I need to be happy. Because it's kind of like you said, outwardly, the people who make the checklist, right? Society is looking at you going, you've checked all the boxes. You're doing great. And you're like, this doesn't feel great at all. And to throw away that and kind of wipe the slate clean and start over. I mean, it's a really courageous thing to do. And I know the women that you work with, do they struggle with that too? Like, how does that show up in your coaching?
I mean, you said it so well, and I got such backlash. I was called really mean things when I started
Mhm.
breaking things up, right? It's like,
Selfish.
how dare you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How dare you? But yeah, I think that I still refer to it as self betrayal, but yeah, there's so many women who um, things are going fine. And it is just so scary. And especially if you deal with abandonment wounds and things of that sort, or feeling um, like the heaviness of you must take on the world and not feeling the support of others and having to do something else that puts you front and center in that pain that you vowed you'll never be a part of anymore.
Mhm.
You're willing to, I can just do with this. Like, this is fine. I know that I'm not living what to put inside of me. I'm miserable, but I don't deserve to be miserable.
Mhm.
I was told like I didn't deserve to say I was miserable.
Mm.
I have all of these great things going for me. I'm unappreciative and selfish.
Wow. Wow, it's fascinating because it's your lived experience, like it's your feelings. And it's so interesting how we are taught to deny our feelings and to ignore them. And then when you get into a situation where your body is screaming at you that these feelings are here, it's still like, okay, yeah, you may be feeling that, but you shouldn't feel that. Like,
Shouldn't feel that.
it's incredible. So, how do you connect? Because I know like you're doing soul work, you're doing purpose work, and usually that comes from being, pulling yourself from your own situation and finding solutions. And now you're like, hey, I have some help for you, I can help. How do you connect with the people that you work with? Do you tend to attract people who are like you, and like what kind of symptoms are they having, or do you tend to attract all comers and you know how to help them because of your training?
So I think it's both. I do attract a lot of people who are like me, but I can see the world in pain versus healing, right?
Mhm.
And so pain has certain symptoms, and then healing has certain symptoms. And
Right.
so, and it all draws back to the source. So, um, I've started working with men too. And so usually I only worked with women, people who I could relate to, but I can see based off of my training, my lived experience, and working with the clients that I have, pain has a certain smell, it has a certain taste, it has a certain essence. And it might come up in anger, procrastination, road rage, inability to complete things. It can come out with stifled growth. But it's all a symptom of pain. And
Mhm.
healing comes like with courage and love and perseverance and like
Trust.
it. These are all. Say it again.
I said trust. We talk about trust a lot.
Trust.
Yeah.
Being able to trust. Trust is big. Trusting yourself and other people.
Yeah.
Um, that's all a product of healing. And so it starts to look and see the same. So I don't have to have your experience or be in your specific situation to be able to understand. And all I do is guide you back to you, but
Mhm.
getting rid of the the noise and the dust and the dirt on top so that you can truly get back to you. Because
Yeah.
you have the answer, you know what's true, but
Mhm.
it can be covered with all of the muck, you
Yeah.
know, unresolved trauma leaves. So
Yeah.
I help clean that up so that you can get back to you. So I don't need to know your specific, I don't have to experience your specific situation to be able to help guide you back to you.
So good. And so to continue with your story and like how you pulled yourself or clean the muck off your own self, like tell us more about what happened with that.
I got really honest, brutally honest with myself. It's like I felt like I had nothing left. So it was no longer, I didn't have to hide it. I did have to realign and readjust. So the people who didn't support me had to be temporarily redistributed. So the
Mhm.
ones that didn't value me getting back with my, because I took a very untraditional route. And so the ones that didn't value that, we had to have a conversation or make some changes. And then I surrounded myself
When
with
you I'm
content.
sorry, when you say the untraditional route, you mean like the medical part or
Yeah,
uh
like I tend to go, like I didn't just follow the doctor's prescription.
mhm,
I wasn't interested in just muting the symptoms.
mhm,
So while having the aggressive symptoms, I chose to, I just really didn't believe if I muted the symptoms, what's going to guide me back to the core? I
mhm,
didn't understand how I was going to be able to, because I knew the symptoms were telling me a story.
mhm.
And if I got rid of them, then who's going to tell me the story? Like,
Yeah.
how am I going to get to the core if I got rid of the symptoms?
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
But this wasn't the first time that I've done this. So, like, I did it in 2007 when there was a
Mm,
diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. I did
mm,
it in 2012 when I had the twins and the pregnancy with the twins, and that was a whole. They wanted me to abort the babies and all of that.
mm,
I use my body and its symptoms to get back to my body is really trying to tell me, what it's trying to communicate, what the message is.
mhm,
So I've had a history of not muting the symptoms, very
mhm.
untraditional, and I don't recommend it for everyone. But I
Yeah.
know that that's how I knew from my purpose and what my calling was that I couldn't abandon, and it was hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would track all of my symptoms. I would understand. I would have a lot of quiet time to understand, well, where is the first time that I felt this?
Mhm.
What did I feel? And I mean, it was ugly. I had hard conversations with people. But then I had beautiful things. Like on that journey was the road to recovery with my dad. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But it came from, I have questions that I need answered. Um,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have, I just closed that chapter out. There were so many things where I just closed it out and it was bubbling inside to where my body broke.
Mm.
It literally broke. It was like I've
Mm.
had enough. And so all of the areas where I had closed off and abandoned and just tucked away and put locks on, I opened them all up, all of
Wow.
them.
Wow.
And it was ugly, it was scary, it was, and I don't want anyone to do it alone. Healing in safe spaces is a beautiful experience,
Mhm.
and doing it alone is not necessary.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah. What is your mission? So now that you've and I know we're all like still evolving in coming becoming the best that we could possibly be. Why is it so important for you? I watched your recent video where you're like, I am deeply passionate, deeply passionate. Like, why is it important that you take what you've experienced and the new skills and the craft that you've honed and bring that out to the world? Why does that matter?
could you imagine a world that's safe enough for people to get to the core and start actively and consciously healing and having more symptoms of healed in their
Mhm.
bodies versus pain? Could you imagine like the benefits of living in a world where everyone, because I think that the statistics only like 5% of the people will actively take this on, right?
Mhm.
Most people are walking around unconscious. This is just who I am. This is just,
Mhm.
like there's no shade or judgment to it. But
Mhm.
what would it look like if more people were actively on this journey and moving from a full place of love versus pain and fear? And
Yeah.
how would that be to be in community and in the world with? Like, what would that look like and feel like? And so um, I'm on a mission to free as many people from unconscious fear and just being riddled by their unresolved trauma as possible,
Mhm.
because it benefits everybody. It benefits
Yeah.
everybody, and it makes a world um, more exciting to live in.
How do you know if you have unconscious fear?
You look at your symptoms. Like if you really like, that's why step one is to like take inventory of where you really are.
Mhm.
Um, and there take some ownership. It's no longer, this is just who I am. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, it's like, this is not just who you are, right? So just looking at your symptoms and just like taking, like, track your emotions for the day and track how what other people think about you. Like
Mhm.
I did all kinds of interviews to ask people what they thought like about me,
Mhm.
like people who I felt safe enough to tell me the truth.
Mhm.
Um, and understand, am I happy, and is that a product? If I was truly living in empowered love and safety and power, would I really have those symptoms? Would that really be who I am?
Mm.
And so taking inventory of, are you happy? Do people enjoy being in space with you? Like,
Mm.
what happens when you're squeezed, when things
Mhm.
don't go your way? What comes out? Does
Yeah.
love come out when you're squeezed? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it gets real. And if you have so many blind spots you can't see, trust the people in your circle. And if you have no one in your circle you can trust, that's a,
Mhm. Yeah. So how can people reach out to you? So you help women and men now. So if there's someone who's watching this video and they're like, I feel like I did all the right things, but I'm not happy, and when I get stressed, I turn into She-Hulk or whatever. It's like I have no more capacity for patience with people around me when I'm stressed. Something's not right. How can they connect with you to find out if this is the right step, if they need a life coach or not?
yep. So I do consultation calls, so you can definitely schedule one. They're absolutely free, and you can do that by going to my Instagram, which is Danielle Nicole Life Coach, and hit schedule consult or book now. You can go to my website; it's there. And so you can schedule a time, you can DM me on Instagram. Um, and so just let's just talk. You know, talking is free. And what I can say is that one conversation can offer transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So one conversation, I might not be the best person for you. I might be. But what I can say is starting the process is transformation. Like it starts the process. And the
Mm-hmm.
step is start the process,
Yeah.
and no longer keep the locks on all the doors. Like let's
Yeah.
start opening them up.
Yeah. So good. Do you have anything to offer to listeners today? Any
So if you want
resource?
something and you're like, hey, I'm not ready to schedule a call, but I want to get started, I have a free guide, and you can get it by texting purpose to 66866. So that's a great place to start. If you're
Purpose
like,
to 66866. I like
666,
that because people go to Instagram and in like 2.2 seconds they're distracted and they forgot why they came there. So it's like text
fast.
purpose to 66866 so you can start now, one and done. Grab your phone, just do it now. It's been so nice to hear your story. I mean, it's just really refreshing and it's very calm the way you present it. And I know that that calm has come from lots of work because probably 2018 there was not calm there. It was probably a lot different. So if you're watching this and you're thinking like, I want to be calm too, I want to feel this level of peace, you have to start with that first step, and it may be a long journey, but there's so much love and beauty along the way, but you just have to start. So, my hope and prayer today is that if you are in a place where you stumble upon this video, however you found it, that you just take that first step, text purpose to 66866 and get started, because Danielle's amazing. I work with her too, and it's just like leaps and bounds. Your life can be so different, and so beautiful. So, thanks for
Awesome.
watching.
And then I'll say, come back next week because
Yes.
next week, who do we get to learn about? We get
Oh,
to
it's all about me. Next
get
week,
to
I
learn
will tell you.
all about we get to learn all about Francelle next week. So please, please, please come back next week.
Yes, it'll be fun. Thank you for watching the Life and Money podcast with Danielle and Francelle.
All right. Bye.
Bye.